So it looks like new model of PlayStation 5 is not only lighter but also more power efficient. Let's look into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So a couple of days ago I reported on that report about new PlayStation 5 model. The one that is currently only available in Australia, but I'm sure it will be distributed all around the globe later on this year. And an Australian website got their hands on the console and they checked a couple of things on the outside, right? So they confirmed that the new console is pretty much the same when it comes to the actual case. They checked some basic details like weight and that kind of stuff. So from the information from the actual documentation, they found out that the console is a bit lighter, right? And now Mr. Austin Evans, he got his hands on one of these consoles, actually digital edition. And I'm sure you remember Austin after he made a video last year about the previous new model of PlayStation 5, where he was very critical about the smaller radiator and a couple of other things, right? I mean, it was a bit of a controversy because obviously there was this concern that, you know, smaller radiator means, well, you know, more heat, and you know that this console may not be actually as good as the previous one. Whether it's good or not, it's still debatable. Looks like it's good enough, let's just say. It's not really melting, the consoles are not melting, so looks like all the temperatures and stuff are fine. Now let's talk about this particular console, because the new one, the latest model, which is 1200, model 1200, and he actually disassembled the whole console. So he actually checked the inside of the console, and what he actually found was this. So the case is almost is similar. There's been some changes to the actual molding of the plastic and that kind of stuff. When you actually start disassembling the console, that's kind of normal. Sometimes looks like they were playing with the airflow a little bit, I guess, right? So I think that's what it's all about, different holes in different places. But there's actually two big changes, actually three big changes when it comes to that particular console. So even from this picture, and the latest console is the one in the middle, right? So the oldest one, the first model, is on the right. The middle model, so the one from last year, is actually on the left. And the one on the left and right, you can see there's actually more of a motherboard near the actual fan, right? While the one in the middle has got that thing cut out, right? Looks like the motherboard is smaller, is shorter, right? So that's one kind of saving. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad, it's actually good, because if something is smaller when it comes to the electronics, not necessarily radiators, right? That's actually good, because that means that it takes less space. You don't need a big case for it, and there is a chance that it uses less electricity, and we will actually get back to it in a minute. So that's one big change. Obviously there's been some changes to the actual the internal case, so the actually shielding, so that metal plate that is in between the actual plastic case and the motherboard. And you can see there's actually changes to the actual molding, and there is a like additional radiator sticking out. I mean, it's actually just a little bit bigger, but there's like a pipe over there. So obviously they made some changes to the actual radiator and the cooling system. Also, it's actually worth pointing out that the fan is a bit different, but that's actually not really a big thing, because even the very first PlayStation 5 models, like there were like 3 or 4 different variations of the fan, of the actual fan. So, you know, like, it's kind of normal, so I wouldn't really make a big deal out of that. So that's one kind of a cool change. Another thing I really want to talk about is the radiator. So this is actually the Radiators comparison. So the one on the right obviously is the massive radiator from the original launch PlayStation 5, and you can see it's like quite big. So yeah, I mean, obviously the bigger radiator, the cooler the console, I guess it should be, right? So obviously they shrinked it in the last model, the previous one last year, the one on the left, and the one in the middle is obviously this year. So the radiator got a little bit smaller as well. It's not as massive difference as we had last year, but looks like they additionally shrinked it, right? So you know, whether it's good, bad, like I said before, I guess it's good enough of a cooling for that console, right? I mean, after 2 years, I bet they've got quite a lot of data whether or not it's actually good enough for the console. I haven't really heard much about, like, you know, PlayStation 5 going bad, and I haven't really seen any reports on that. So it looks like the actual radiator is good enough. So they shrink that, but also there's actually a couple of other interesting things when it comes to that console. And first off, let's talk about the temperatures, right? And the temperatures are actually, so this is an interesting one. Obviously, we don't have the temperatures of the actual chip, right? So just like before, it's difficult to talk about it, to talk about the actual chip and whether or not the radiator is doing good enough job. I would say it does. But we've got the actual temperatures that are coming out from the back of the console, and in the most hot spot at the back, the first console, the launch console, was producing 52 degrees. The last year upgrade 63, so it was actually hotter on the outside. And the latest one, so the one that just got released, it's back to 52, so it's not getting as hot as the previous one, right? And also it seems like the heat coming out from the back of the console seems to be more spread out, if you know what I mean. So that's, I guess it's a good thing. That I think it has something to do with the fact that they actually play with the plastic molding, so the actual airflow inside of the console may be different. So, you know, so the actual air is coming out like in, you know, through like the whole vent, not just the part of it, which is good, I guess. And I think the biggest change of them all, really, and that's actually something that is actually quite important in my opinion, is the power use. So it looks like PlayStation 5 is actually more power friendly. It consumes less energy, because when it comes to the actual wattage, the launch console actually did use 218 watts. And by the way, this is not like an average. Basically what Evan Austin actually did was that he played the same game. It was the same level, same scene, so the consoles would actually have the same load on the GPU. So the launch console was pulling 218 watts. The last year's upgrade 228 watts, and it just goes to show that last year's upgrade wasn't really that great, because it should consume less energy, I would say. And the most recent one, only 201 watts, right? So that's a massive upgrade. So that's like 10% when it comes to the actual power usage, and that would explain the less heat. And it means that the smaller motherboard and the smaller radiator actually makes sense, because it takes less wattage, uses less energy, so obviously it's not going to get as hot as the previous ones, right? So yeah, I mean, overall looks like a good upgrade, I must say. So they saved the power despite not shrinking the actual GPU and CPU, I think. Obviously we don't have that data, but I don't think they did. And yeah, because we would probably get more of a power savings if they did that. But hey guys, looks like that new PlayStation 5 that is actually rolling out globally now is actually the better console, right, this time around. So that's obviously very good news, and yeah, I wouldn't necessarily like go and swap my old one for the new one, because that kind of makes no sense. I have no problems with my launch PlayStation 5. But if you are a new customer looking for PlayStation 5, your console will probably last you longer than mine, for example. So anyway, guys, that's the video. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks for support. I really appreciate it. And as always, I will see you all in the next one. Take care.